Abracadabra! Welcome to Critical Point Reviews. Review of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. The finale to end it all. The long-awaited ending of the Harry Potter saga. One of the most anticipated movies of this decade, I would say. Not sure, but would say. Just my opinion. Definitely since I went and watched the movie, today's Friday by the way, since I went and watched the movie this morning at 11:45 to get the matinee price, the freaking movie was packed out on a Friday. I was like, dang, again, Saturday morning, of course, but Friday? Really? On a Friday? 11:45 in the morning? I'm like, people gotta be working, sleeping in, doing whatever, there's hardly gonna be anyone there. Freaking theater was almost freaking sold out. I couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. I had to get on the handicap seat because I got there like 11:45. I'm not pressed to get on time in the morning showing on a Friday. Man, that movie was packed out. When I walked in, they had lines going for like every showing up to like 7 o'clock that night. 7 o'clock that night, they had a line already started. And it was Friday morning. I was like, what in the world? What is going on? And like literally, the line for the next movie, it was like 12 o'clock, was backed up like, what, probably, it was, I don't know how to describe it. It was probably like a I don't know how many feet, but there was probably like 200 people in that line. It was huge. It was huge. And I my cousin went and saw the midnight movie with a bunch of friends, and he said like I was gonna buy a ticket like last day. Every single theater was sold out. Every single theater, every single showtime was sold out that night, last night. So I went this morning, but it was also a lot cheaper, so it's probably a good thing. But speaking, let's get to the actual review of Deathly Hallows Part 2. It was good. It was good. A lot of people were talking about it. It got real emotional. Maybe it was. Like I was never really. I like the books. I was like a book reader. I just got a lot more out of the books. And I hate to say this, but this was the one book that like I never did complete. I don't know why. Which is maybe why I didn't really feel. And I heard there was a lot of things there. Not a lot, but I heard there were some major changes from the book. I don't know. It could be enough to upset some people, but I don't think it's anything like the one movie, which is why I didn't watch Part 1 until it came out like for rental. I didn't rent it until I think I rented it on like some streaming service, Voodoo, and because they butchered the 6th movie in my opinion, because that was my favorite book, and well, I haven't finished the 7th one, but even still, like I've read like half the book, and still, the 6th book is still my favorite. I'll never forget. I think it was in middle school or something like that. I read the 6th book, and I loved it so much. Because I'm really a big fan of like backstory and stuff like that, and so I just love the 6th book. And they butchered the movie in my opinion, but I don't want to. It's not the review for the 6th book, but no. Getting back to 7 Part 2. It was good. I liked the first one a lot better because I thought there was a lot more. I sort of see like this is the finale, go out with a bang, but like there really wasn't. There was. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't like a Michael Bay movie to where like every actor, it wasn't like Transformers Part 3, which I didn't mind because that's what I was going in to expect. But it wasn't horrible acting. It was pretty good acting on all fronts. And in fact, like I've sort of always had like I've always like not liked the guy who played Harry Potter. Like in the beginning, it was cool. Like I think the movies first started coming out when I was 9 or something like that. Yeah, 9. And so like it was cool then because he was supposed to be portraying a little kid, but it seemed like maybe he portrayed a more grown-up little kid back in the day, and then like it just seems like he hasn't grown at all in all the movies. Maybe that's just my opinion. I know a bunch of people would be like, "I hate you. That's so stupid. He's grown so much. Are you kidding me? There's so much growth." That's just my opinion. I haven't really seen that much growth in his character. I did, which is sort of a compliment to this movie. There were some scenes that Like finally, I was like, wow, you're finally acting like you're older now. You know, like there definitely were some scenes like I don't want to give away a spoiler, but like I guess maybe even towards more of the beginning of the movie, maybe 40 minutes in or something like that, 30 minutes in, like there was a scene like I was like, dang, I was like, he really like you're acting like a 17-year-old now. You're acting like you've went through all this turmoil and crap that you've seen some people die before. I mean, because before like I don't know, he acted like I don't know, it just I've always had a gripe with that, but like there's still like for me, there's still some of that in here, and if you never had a problem with that, then you'll be fine with these movies. The only reason I say that is like how I've seen like he's acted the only reason I say that is because you look at the Emma Watson and I think Rupert I forget I think Rupert Grint I think that's his name, or is that the guy that plays Voldemort? I don't even know. The guy who plays Ron, like Hermione was like a stuck-up know-it-all in the beginning. Not really stuck-up, but she was like a know-it-all sort of deal in the beginning. Like one of the smart kids, like teacher's pet sort of suck-up person. And then she sort of changed. I mean, not that she would. She was always extremely smart throughout the movies and the book series, but you saw the growth. Like in the movies, you saw the growth, and then Ron in the movies was sort of like this annoying little, he was sort of annoying. He always annoyed me, like when he was younger, like the little accent he had. But then it seemed like he grew, and then you could tell like some of that annoyingness wore off. At least that was to me. But like Harry was always the exact same. Like I said, I enjoyed it when I was a kid, but then I was like going back looking at him now. I thought personally that there would have been a little growth. But there was in this movie, so that is sort of a compliment. It leans back and it goes back and forth. But like yeah, with all the acting was pretty much, it was really good and stuff like that. But like I really do again, and I realize this is finale, and it's like basically part 2 of the book, and I can tell like where they rushed a lot of scenes and such like that. There were some scenes like I'm not gonna give away anything, but I could definitely tell which. I'll probably go back and finish the second half of the book now, or just restart it and reread it because I haven't read it in years. But I could definitely tell there were some scenes that like just seemed rushed and such like that. I think I've used that little expression 10 times. But yeah, I mean there were definitely scenes that felt rushed and characters that I was like, what? How did they die? It sort of explains, but I guarantee you, even though I haven't read it, I know in the book that it probably goes into more detail. And then there was another one of the main characters, like towards the end. I'm not sure if this reveals in the book, but I would expect it would because like I was just like, whoa, how did that character end up in that situation? Because it was never explained. They didn't show him. I don't think they showed him all in the movie up until that point. It was close towards the end of the movie, so I was like. Where did that come from? And I also heard with the Snape character that they changed, that there was a big difference. Not really, but they added. They added a lot more. They added almost a different story, is what I heard. I'm not sure with the Snape character. That's what I heard read in one of the reviews. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Like I said, I didn't get that far in the book, but there was a change in the book from the book to the movie. That was a pretty big change. That they weren't sure how the fans were going to react. I don't know. I have a feeling I know what it has to do with, but like I said again, I don't know how that changes there or not. But again, like I said, I did enjoy the first movie better, and I can already tell where people are gonna be like, oh no, this was like this was amazing. Like there were people clapping in my theater and getting all into it. I personally I was like yeah. I mean there were a couple laughs and stuff, but I mean if you were a really big fan of the movies, which I wasn't. The sixth movie, like I said, not trying to go back, but the sixth movie just pretty much brought down any credibility it had. I know you're going to say, like, well, what about the other 5 movies? I mean, they were good, but that was my favorite book of the whole series, and then the credibility just went down. But then I went back and watched part 1, and the credibility was somewhat restored. I was like, dang. I was like, that was actually a really, really good movie. And then part 2 wasn't as good as part 1 in my opinion, but it was still good. It had a lot more action and such like that. Again, but it had a lot more action, and I guess that's because I know a lot of people complaining about the part 1 being really slow. I enjoyed it. I felt the action parts in part 1 were right and just how they had to be. I felt maybe they could have had one more, but still, I enjoyed part one through and through. Like, and again, for me, like, towards the end of part two, I was sort of, I was like looking at the watch and sort of was like, all right, it definitely seemed longer than 2 hours and 10 minutes. I'm just gonna say that. I mean, it seemed a lot longer. The first one was 2.5 hours, and it didn't even seem 2.5 hours to me. So, but I mean, it was still pretty cool. The action sequences were pretty cool. Um, they're not the best action sequences ever. So I know some people are gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, this is one of the best action sequences, one of the best war movies, sort of like war scenes." I've been and one of the reviews I read compared it to the Two Towers battle scene. If you read the same review, it's nothing like that. Don't get your hopes up for that because that ain't happening. I mean, just saying that ain't happening. Helm's Deep battle scene, it's not happening. They had something that like wasn't going to be as good, but it could have held up as a really good war scene, but it sort of like just shot it and then panned off. So I mean, I realized that Harry Potter was always seen more towards kids anyway, but I sort of felt the movies were getting a little bit more adult. So I was like, well, maybe I mean, it was a really dark movie. I'm not gonna lie. There were a lot of action sequences and such. So I mean, I can see where like they didn't want to completely like they were probably just thinking about what who's their main who's one of their main core audiences. So I can understand why they did it that way. But even still, like again, the fifth movie, which was sort of boring, just like the fifth book, up until the very end. Uh, like the huge action sequence between Dumbledore and Voldemort. I was really hoping for something looking that cool again. I mean, don't get me wrong, the special effects in part two were amazing. I mean, they were really great. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the special effects were. I mean, that was one of the triumphs of the movie. And so far, like, I'm thinking back on every movie I've seen this year. This made like, I would say like it's Oscar worthy special effects. Like, it's definitely like the best special effects I've seen so far this year. And you know, but still saying that, and I realized like that last little action sequence in the end of part five was like the main thing, but you didn't have anything. I was like, this has got to be the finale, and then between Harry and Voldemort, I was thinking, it's a movie. They can spice it up a little bit. They'll do some cool stuff. I was looking forward to it, but they didn't really show anything like that cool. I mean, you had this huge war, but they didn't show anything that cool. So, but yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much it. It was a good movie. I know a lot of people liked it a lot more, or were going to like it a lot more than I did, and are probably like complaining about everything I'm saying right now. The majority. And I have a feeling if you come to watch this review, especially Harry Potter, you've already seen it. There's no doubt this movie's going to bank money big time. It already picked up, I think, the biggest midnight premiere ever, 43 million just off of midnight sales. So that is crazy. Like I said, after the theater today, like I guarantee you, this the weekend will beat The Dark Knight. As much as it hurts me to say. I have a feeling that it'll be the best domestic box office. I think it'll beat the $158 mark. $158 million mark, which is what Dark Knight scored in the weekend. Like I said, as much as that hurts me to say, I do think. I mean, I have my Dark Knight poster back there, but I do think it will beat now. But hey, guys, yeah, sorry about that. But getting to the score of the film, I would give it a low 4 out of 5. It doesn't make it down to 3.5. But just because, like, I feel like everyone's just talking this movie up so much and saying, I mean, it is a worthy ending for the franchise. There's not gonna be another one, but I wasn't, I keep hearing like other reviews, people were getting emotional towards the ending, and I wasn't, I'll just say there were these, no spoiler alert or anything, not giving away anything, but there were these major occurrences in the movie that people were talking about. Well, I just got sad at some points in the movie. Towards the end, I wasn't, comparing it to the part one, which I want to go back and watch part one and part two because I think it'd be a better experience. But I would probably give part one a 4.5 because I really felt that movie was really, really strong on its own. I felt it was very adult and very grown up for the Harry Potter world. But yeah, I'm gonna give this one a low 4 out of 5. It's a worthy success. It's a worthy finale. So, thanks again. Subscribe, comment.